Hi everyone, I'm Jasmine. I'm a student at Cal State University of Long Beach, and I'm a communication studies student. And today we have Janie Schumaker, who is the Interim Executive Director of Board of Certification for Emergency Nursing. And Janie has been in emergency room who has been certified through BCEN. Hi Janie, thank you for joining us today.
Hi Jasmine, it's a pleasure to be here.
So to start off, could you describe what the typical emergency room nurse day entails and what your first few years in the emergency room nursing was like?
Sure. First of all, I would just like to say some of you may have seen some TV shows like ER. So I want to say, first of all, that the ER is rarely exactly like that. Most days consist of a very steady stream of people in need of help because they're sick or they've injured themselves in some way. Most of them are going to stay with you in the emergency department about 2 to 4 hours, depending on their condition. And the team, you being part of the team as the emergency nurse, makes an assessment. You'll do some interventions to help them feel better. And then you'll evaluate some of the results from testing and things like that. And then you'll make a decision about, do they go home? Should we admit them to the hospital? What resources are available to them? So you'll see multiple patients during each shift. There's a little bit of time often when emergency departments are not that busy. They can slow down. But the thing about it is you never know what's going to come through the door. So you have to be ready for anything in an instant because the ER can become very chaotic very quickly. So the job does require a lot of energy and love for helping people and a love for problem solving. It's kind of like detective work. People come in and they tell you they're feeling this way, and then you've got to put all the pieces together to help the team figure out what's going on. My first few years in the emergency department were absolutely amazing. It was not like a job. I loved it so much, still do. So it was really amazing, and I felt like it was a privilege to be able to go to work. It was so much fun. It was very challenging for me because I was learning so much every day. When you see your first patient that has, let's say, a kidney stone or something like that, and you see your first patient that has one of those, you never forget it. And then when you see another patient with the same kind of symptoms, you think, okay, I know what that is. And that's a really good feeling to be able to start to recognize things and get on top of that for people and be able to help them more quickly. So my first few years, I had a ton of fun. I will tell you, I shed a lot of tears because not everything in the emergency department is always happy, but I knew that I was making a huge difference.
That's great. Yeah, it sounds like you learn a lot of you get a lot of experience from that, and just being in there every single day, you grow and learn more and more every day.
Yes.
So, what high school or college courses have you found to be most applicable and important for this occupation? Or were there courses that you wish you had taken for preparation?
So in high school, I found some of the things that I took that I found most helpful were science classes for sure. So just you're going to need a good understanding of human anatomy and physiology. I also found that nutrition was helpful, and when somebody is undernourished, what that looks like and how to get them back on track. I would also say, people always tell you need that high level math and that algebra, and I have to say I would say those weren't as helpful. That joke about here's another day and I didn't use algebra, so that's kind of true. But you do have to know how to do some math calculations.
Okay.
I also think growth and development was helpful to me. It's very helpful to understand normal for this age and stage in life. These are what you kind of expect to see from people. So those were some classes that I found very helpful.
Great. Okay. So, what would you say are the benefits of being certified?
Okay, well, emergency nursing, just like any area you specialize in nursing, areas nowadays are highly specialized. Emergency nurses are some of the most versatile and highly skilled people in the industry. Again, you have to be ready for anything that walks into the door. So having that certification points to proof that you have the knowledge base and the expertise to handle anything that comes through your door as an emergency department nurse. We require in most emergency departments our doctors to be board certified. This certification is a board certification for nurses, and I feel strongly that nurses should be board certified right along with the doctors. Now, Board of Certification for Emergency Nursing, or BCEN, has recently completed a research study where we set out to prove that certification actually does matter. And we found some things that were relevant to the individual nurse as well as to the employer who would employ the emergency nurse. So for the individual, we found that the nurses have much better career opportunities. They have promotions more readily available to them, or they can take on more challenging roles. We also learned that they make more money than their non-certified peers, about $1,400 more per year on average. And they also report a very high degree of self-satisfaction and satisfaction with their careers. For the employer, we found out that supervisors rated certified nurses much higher on their technical performance on the job than their non-certified peers. So for the employer, that really points to a better clinical care for patients and families. So we were very, very pleased with our research results.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you find most surprising about this career?
I think the most surprising thing was the impact that I was able to have on people. I just never imagined how much of a difference that I could make going to a job every day. People come into the emergency department usually not at their best. They're often very anxious, scared, very nervous. They're not sure what's wrong with them or something terrible has happened. And so you really have the opportunity to help people through tough situations, help people feel better, help people have some peace and understanding about what's wrong with them. Because when something's wrong with you and you're hurting really bad, that's very scary. And you start to imagine the worst, of course. And in addition to that, the people that you work with, they will become your family. They're like your second family. And so you'll also have a huge impact on their lives, and they will have one on yours as well. So I think that was the thing that struck me, is just the huge difference that you have the opportunity to make.
Wow. No, that's really interesting, because I feel like nurses don't just make you feel better physically, but they really provide that emotional support that you need
Yes.
during that time where you're so vulnerable. And those are the times usually that you want, your parents to take care of you. I know I feel that way sometimes. So I feel like nurses really provide that, that kind of maternal care and love.
Yes.
I really love that.
Yes. Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better.
So can you tell me about the recertification process and how long do the certifications last?
Yes, our certifications are good for 4 years. There's really two main options to recertify when your 4 years comes up. The most popular option is to use continuing education to recertify. So that makes a lot of sense, because your certification says I have the knowledge and expertise above and beyond someone who's not certified. So by getting that continuing education over that 4 years, you maintain that expert knowledge base. The other way to recertify is to retake the test, which some people like to do, but most people prefer to go the continuing education route, because it can be a little nerve-wracking for some people to take an exam. So most of our folks recertify with the continuing education, but those are the two main ways to recertify.
Oh, okay, great. So we're starting to wrap up now.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you would like to add, or you think would help someone considering this occupation?
Yes, so if you're a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, this could be a good job for you. If you like to stay busy and you like your workday to go quickly, it's a good choice. If you really like to problem solve and you're a good critical thinker, again, this is a good fit for you. The best ER nurses anticipate complications in patients that could arise while the patient's here with us, and we're on top of those. And we're always one step ahead of everybody else on the team, making sure we have everything covered and we're well prepared for that patient's care. I would also suggest to people, if you're not quite sure, most emergency nurses would be delighted to have somebody come in and shadow them for the shift, and most hospitals will allow that. So you could shadow, and you know what, stay the whole 12-hour shift so you can really get a feel for what goes on, what it's like. Don't go in the morning, go in the afternoon or the nighttime, because that's when the emergency department is busiest. The other thing that you might think about is catching a shift with your local ambulance crew and riding along with them, because then you kind of can get, and then follow that up with your shift in the emergency department, because then you really get the whole picture of how did this start for people. You get to, riding with the ambulance is absolutely amazing. You see a whole different side of what goes on before they get to the hospital. So those are some things that I think would be helpful for anybody considering this specialty area in nursing.
Wow. Okay. So if someone were to want to shadow, how would they go about doing that? Would they go to a hospital and just ask someone, or?
Yeah, sometimes through your nursing program you can set that up, or if you know, if you find somebody who knows has a friend who's a nurse that works in the emergency department, and reach out to them. And usually that nurse can talk to the hospital. There's oftentimes maybe some confidentiality forms and things that you have to sign. You might have to do a quick little volunteer or shadow type orientation. But either through your nursing program, or if somebody, like I said, if somebody finds somebody who knows an emergency nurse and have them introduce you and talk with them about shadowing. Okay. Those are the two best ways to do that.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much, Janie. We're wrapping up now, but it was such a pleasure having you. I learned so much just through this interview, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing. And thank you for all the helpful tips. I'm sure that a lot of people will benefit from this.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure. And I'll look forward to seeing a bunch of new nurses come into the emergency nursing field.
Bye.
Bye-bye.